Anyway, mate, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
So here we are, beyond the battlefield. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about who you are. So if you're happy, give us a little introduction.
Yeah, so my name is William Petty. I live in Exeter, work as a therapist at the moment. And how I got here has been quite a long, interesting story. Not really what I set out to do. Historically, didn't really believe in mental health. It was like, that's just weakness, it's this, it's that. And joined the Navy at 18. Grew up in the Lake District, always saw the Hercules, the jets, helicopters coming over, and I just like, that's what I want to do. That looks pretty awesome if they'll pay me to do that. So yeah, I started Dartmouth at 19, went through the flying training system, which was, I'll spin some bits about that in a second, but not as gooch as it turned, as it looked in the beginning. And yeah, left in May of 2022, trained in CBT at the University of Exeter, and now I work with all sorts of members of the community for the YMCA. That's my day job, and seeing clients privately for coaching and mentoring, and really interested in sort of, especially for blokes, I think sitting down in a one-to-one therapy room is not the most appealing thing for them. You know, probably you could ask them like what they'd like least. It's going and telling the bloke how you're feeling. And so I've been thinking about how we can widen that offering. I've been doing some blacksmithing and anger management courses, which are going really well. Hot metal for hotheads, and been integrating bouldering and therapy for depression. So getting people on that wall and giving them some concrete evidence that they've got power and agency in their life to make a difference and to change whatever's going wrong for them.
It's powerful, and you obviously come onto my program, Warrior Wellness Movement, and delivered some fantastic live training, Monday night calls, and done the one-on-one stuff with some of my clients with exceptional results, I'd say. But the stuff that you do on a Monday night call, I love, because not only is my clients getting a real benefit, and I'm sitting there making notes, so it's like my own little session as well. So the stuff that I take away from what you talk about, which integrates into what I do within Warrior Wellness Movement, should set people up really, really nicely. And like you touched on with mental health and all the bits and pieces that you do, which is fantastic. But we met in a coffee shop, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
And what was fascinating, Mark Jones, who's on the podcast as well from 360, we were talking about projects, we were talking about what I do, what he does, and we said what we need is somebody to come and do some mental health work, some breathing techniques, all the stuff that we're into, but it's kind of out of our remit. Ching ching, and the door opened. You literally walked in, you said hello to Mark, introduced him up, you went to the counter, and Mark just went, "There's your guy." There's your guy. I went, "Who's that?" You went, he's an ex-pilot. So there we go. A few phone calls later and a coffee.
Yeah, I love it when things happen like that, you know, that serendipity, just walking through the door at the right moment, and the connections. And you know, Mark's such a good guy, really good friend of ours. Was helping him move into his house this weekend. Just gave me a ring off the off chance I was in Topsham, and brought my mate Alan along, and we helped him move house. But yeah, I think what you're offering is quite unique. You know, there's lots of online PTs. You know, I'll show you how to do your fizz, crack on with your program, get on with it. And you know, they have quite a high egress rate, because it's people's noggins that's getting in the way, isn't it? It's why do I self-sabotage when I start moving forward? You know, this guilt and shame that starts to come up, all that self-directed anger, they just, you know, they start falling apart. And you know, the mental resilience pillar of Warrior Wellness Movement it's really essential if you want lasting change. You know, we can't rely on motivation. They'll sign up, I really want to get in the gym, I'll be great for 4 weeks, but what happens when that dies down? And if they don't have the discipline from their life, how can they find and create that in that transition to midlife?
And I think service leavers that come to me, veterans, ex-armed forces, a lot of blue light, funnily enough, they're the ones that seem to shine and excel because they take on board perhaps more of what we talk about. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. You can come into any training program, training environment, follow you can go and Google it. Go and Google something and follow it. But if you want to be coached, to be in a coaching program and listen to the things that you're talking about, what I'm talking about, Hazel, nutritional therapist, specialist in women's health, you've got to put all those together, which creates my 4 pillars quite nicely, along with community as well. It's not just following a training program. I say to everyone, go and Google it. If you want to just follow a training program, but you've got to get involved in a structure that's going to be meaningful for you. But going back to the work that you do, it's enormous, because I think when we get to a certain age, or certainly I'm in my 40s now, I know I look older in that picture there, even though I was 23, but we need more about support that you give, 100%, because I think you just touched on it there. You've got to get out your own way. I say to a lot of people, get out your own head. I could have done with you 10 years ago when I was racing, indoor rowing, world championships, although I've got my comeback going on at the moment. But I find myself now in a much stronger position mentally, although it's only been 8 weeks of training leading up to the national championships. 10 years ago, I had 2 what I call performance anxiety attacks the night before racing, where just didn't have the support, the stuff that you had been speaking about, because I didn't think about that mental health. I just thought it was just, stacks of smoke straight down the middle, aggressive training. And this had these massive meltdowns. And I was 32, 33, and I call that performance anxiety. What can you relate to with that, with performance anxiety?
Yeah, so, I think it's the balance is the word that was coming up for me then as you were speaking. Really gunning for those goals with the indoor rowing, probably putting a lot of effort into your training and really nailing that. But, if we're out of balance, it comes at a cost to us. We need to sort of move forward in unison, sort of in parallel with all parts of ourselves, mentally, spiritually, physically. And, when we're not doing that, it's like, I'm going to get nerdy and technical on physics, because that's my jam from being a pilot. But, I think the key of therapy is authenticity. That's what we're trying to do. The therapist, any mental health program, is trying to put a mirror to yourself so you can see the mask that you put on and who you actually are as a person. And it's like a reaction. The further that is from who you are as a person, the more violent things are going to fall apart, because they're just going to oscillate and things go wrong. For me personally, I went through the military flying training system, realized about 2018 that it really wasn't for me. Speaking of authenticity, I joined up because I wanted to tell birds that I was a pilot. It wasn't coming from a genuine or sincere place. And I started receiving mentorship at 20, and soon sort of realized that this whole thing that I'd worked towards really wasn't me. My peers were really into it, and I was just there, just finding this a bit shit, to be honest. And I tell friends and family, they're like, no, what are you on about? It's a great opportunity. Don't throw it away, which is totally fair enough feedback. But because I was acting outside of integrity with myself, going through things like SEER training, going through that abuse, being shouted at, marching across Bodmin Moor on 1,000 calories.
You were lucky you weren't at Dartmouth when I was there. When I was one of the instructors. I think I left just as you probably arrived around about 2014, 15.
Yeah, I joined on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, 2015.
All right. I'd just gone then. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was living outside of integrity with myself, essentially. Core principle of the Royal Navy, of the C2 drill, integrity, and I wasn't in that, so just caused my mental health to crumble, really. Started drinking, isolating from my friends, from my peers. I just really started living a very insular life. And then my cousin committed suicide, and that was really just a wake-up call for me. If I don't square away my mental health, that's where I'm going. It doesn't matter if my gym's all good, it doesn't matter if my things with my girlfriend are great. If I'm not looking after my mental health, it's just such a key pillar of being healthy and whole as a person. So I told my squadron leader that's what was going on for me. Quietly advised me, saying, if you do pursue this, you'll probably not continue to fly, because it's a big thing with your medical categories and mental health. And so ended up being removed from flying training. Was due to leave. COVID happened. Mm-hmm. During COVID, started basically being a logs officer, managing some of the COVID response and things. Actually, it was the most enjoyable part of my military career because it was about the human connection, making sure people are squared away.
Do you think because the pressure's off as well compared to flying an aircraft or counting blankets?
Pretty much, yeah.
So there's little pressure. If you can come from high pressure situations, which are, life or death, let's be honest, at the press of a button, to in an environment that's quite comfortable, the consequences aren't anywhere near as bad. You probably do start to smile a bit more.
Yeah, I think so. People we can endure pressure, but I think I really like the saying, "A man with a why can endure anyhow." If we don't have our why, then putting ourselves in those high pressure situations, the internal message is just abuse towards the self. It's like, why am I doing this to myself? Without that cause and that purpose, we really shouldn't be doing those kind of things. And so I'm not telling people to not set goals, but it's really to ask that question: is this goal that I'm setting really in line with my personal values? And if it's not, then there's no wonder you might end up having a midlife crisis. And that's what essentially a midlife crisis is. It's reaching that point of life where you realize you've been out of integrity with yourself for so long because of your dad's messages, because of your mum's, because of society's. It's work hard, go to uni, be a good boy. And
I did none of them.
Just being an Essence bootneck.
But I went from being a Royal Marine to joining the Royal Navy and being a PTI, and I had the best years of my life at Dartmouth, Britannia Royal Naval College, because I was pulled out of an environment I no longer wanted to be a soldier. I no longer wanted to be away from home in crappy environments. So it was either leave or go and do something completely different. So I took a big gamble and transferred across the Navy, which turned out to be the best thing I ever did, because I had 3 years, two and a half, 3 years at Dartmouth. Loved it. Just loved it. Taking young officers through training, still getting involved in the soldiering aspect with the bootnecks that were down there. So I'd go up and do Oakhampton for a week and thrash you all around. But still able to go home at night, still be able to go back into the gym, not put uniform on, all those things that I was like, this is it, I've got this. And then I went on ship, because you have to do a ship draft, had a torrid time in terms of seriously, depression.
Really?
Just hated it. I was on HMS Richmond, we did anti-piracy, counter-narcotics, that's the right way to say it. Bored out of my head, just bored. I still needed, there was something missing, like that excitement that I needed. So I'd be training really hard. You know what it's like. You're just living in close quarters amongst 30 lads. I was 31, living with a load of 19-year-olds. You suddenly feel like a granddad. And I struggled.
Sounds really tough.
I struggled. It was a 9-month deployment, and I got drafted at the 6-month point. I don't think I'd lasted 9 months. I got drafted at 6 months. I just got a crash draft. So I was out of there. But I came out of that and then went down to Cold Rose, and that's when my problems really started. So physically, my body just went into complete shutdown. And this is obviously the stuff I've been doing at 360 in recent years, which is, that's another talk I'm going to go into with Mark. But yeah, the physical problems that I had, there's no great story of getting blown up by an IED or anything. My body just went fuck off and just shut down from all the rowing that I'd done, from bootneck training, from being a PTI. My hips tore, my ankle was reconstructed, I had stress fractures in my back, and I just couldn't train, and I couldn't do the thing that I wanted to do. So I just took a massive mental health dive, which again, I never thought would be possible. I never, there's the stigma, mental health. I was like, crack on, bootneck mentality. And I just got to a stage when I was at Cold Rose where I just hit complete rock bottom. I was in so much fucking pain, and I'd already had 2 operations at this point. And I just had a full-on meltdown in the office one day and just basically threatened to bang everyone out, seniors included, and it wasn't looked upon very nicely. Went to the doctors, had a full-on meltdown, sat in front of this civvy doctor. I wish I knew her name. I'd send her a nice message and say thank you, because she was the turning point. I just sat in front of her and just cried my eyes out. I mean, I can't, I'm fucked. Because this has been years. This is not like just overnight. This is going from start line of a world championship, indoor rowing. 4 months later, couldn't get out of my car because I was in so much pain. Remember, this was at Dartmouth as well, so it did start quite early. So I stopped indoor rowing, but I still kept pushing in other areas. And yeah, I ended up having just a full-on, I guess, like a midlife crisis in my early 30s. And this is where Warrior Wellness Movement came from, and the struggles from adversity to coming back. But yeah, I was put into HASLA, which is the Naval Service Recovery Centre. I think it's the proper name for it.
Up at Drake.
Yeah. 2 years there, and then that springboarded me eventually into moving on, but still having problems. It wasn't like everything was fixed, but you know, it's an ongoing battle. It still is, and that's where Mark. I say about Mark Jones. I talk about me. I transform people's lives. He saved my life 100% with his magic. So.
It's amazing what he does up there.
Yeah.
Functional movement neurology, I think that's what he calls it. And yeah, it sounds like your body giving up in the way that it did. You weren't able to use fizz anymore as a way of regulating.
But I can now. This is the genius of it. This is it. So who would have thought 10 years later, I'm now racing again. I'm racing again in a few weeks. When this podcast goes out, I might have already raced, so I don't know how well I'm going to do, but. When you take something away from someone, especially when you've been in the Royal Marines or when you've been in the military, you've been in some sort of high performance sport or job, if you take something away from them like that because of injury and you can't do what you love and you have no outlet like you spoke about, you're fucked. You're fucked. And that's why I had such a crash. Not like I was in a little bit of discomfort. I was in pain. Like I was in lots of pain. I saw specialists across the world. I took things into my own hand. I flew to Italy. I've seen chiropractors, osteopaths, physios, specialists, doctors, you name it.
Everything in the kitchen sink.
Everything. I tried everything. And then in the end, obviously, the wheels came off. But the big thing for me is, you take something away from someone, that outlet of physical training. Or we spoke earlier about like the adrenaline to want to go and do something. Like I've got this adrenaline and passion. I like an easy life. That's cool, but I still like pushing the boundaries, and I like to gamble. I gamble with things like go on, we'll have a go at that. Say it and do it.
We've got to dare to dream with things, haven't we? We put so many limits on what we can achieve, and the capacity for the body is so far outside of that prison that we put it in. But I wanted to go back to the point that you were speaking of about the fizz, because I think for a lot of blokes, fizz is their mental health. In a way, it's what they use to regulate themselves. And, there's huge science to show how amazing it is for mental health. The way it promotes GABA, which reduces anxiety, helps you with sleep. I'm not telling people not to do fizz. But, an interesting question is, if fizz was taken away due to injury, due to illness, due to, injury sustained in conflict, how would you look after your mental well-being if fizz wasn't on the table, either for the rest of your life or even just right now? And that's what stacks and builds the resilience. It's, do I need to have a morning routine? Is meditation something that works for me? Is it going to church? Do I have a relationship with the spiritual realm? What is it that sustains me on those multiple levels? Because we can't always just crack fizz. Even though it's so good, and definitely recommend people to do that. It's the layers of mental resilience and community. We're hypersocial animals. We need to relate to each other. Without that relationship, we just crumble. The worst punishment people used to receive in prisons and as prisoners of war was solitary confinement, because we fall apart without our mates, without our oppos. It's such an important and integral part of looking after ourselves.
And this is the stuff you talk about on our live training calls within Warrior Wellness Movement, and it's the message that we try and deliver to people, because lots and lots of veterans, ex-military, ex-blue light come onto the program, and of course, like you just said, phys or physical training is their outlet, like it is for me. And sometimes we are limited because people come on, they're a little bit older, they've got injuries, niggles, they've got time restraints, they've got things they want to train, but what else can we do? And all those things. And that's why I look at what I do and what we do within the movement. It's like that holistic health, what Hazel speaks about with nutrition. Physical training is not enough. It's not enough. Going to the gym is not enough. I say this all the time on my socials. It's how we look after ourselves. And myself, and you touched on it earlier, I've had a terrible relationship with alcohol. It's still not amazing. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a kind of all or nothing guy. But at times of hardship, at times of stress, at times when you're at rock bottom, guess what? You're opening a can of beer and that becomes 4, 5, 6. And of course, the Navy, as we know it, did have a terrible drinking culture.
Still does.
Yeah. So I think, again, you get to your perhaps 40s like me, and people have got shocking habits, myself included. When I was at rock bottom, I was pissing it up all the time. I went to Headley Court for 6 weeks on an intensive rehab course. So taking out HASLA, taking to the next level up in Headley Court, I think that's moved on now. I was on a piss for 6 weeks. You put a load of bootnecks together in a room for therapy and rehab. And all we're doing is pissing around, going out the night before, hung over to the max, just thinking, when are we finishing? Because we want to go ashore. And that's the culture the military breeds, and it probably still does, which, I mean, I don't think you'll ever change that, honestly.
No, it's it's an important part of the connection, isn't it? But it's how it transitions from, we'll work hard, Friday we'll get together and have some beers, and we'll still get up and have a nice weekend Saturday too, just being completely obliterated in the week, at the weekends. And, people end up with some really nasty habits. I did, it was beer, it wasn't like spirits.
Coping mechanisms.
Total coping mechanism, but 12, 14, 15 cans a day over multiple years, 2 years of that. And it completely fragged my body. It's been a huge journey last year, getting back into the gym and looking after myself.
Do you drink now?
Very occasionally, yeah. I like to sort of have 2, 3, 4 weeks off at a time. Yeah. But I've got a mate visiting at the moment, and we went out some beers last night. So I'm able to control it, but I need to have those gaps. Yeah. To ensure it doesn't become a crutch.
But you've got the understanding as well now. Like, I wouldn't have had this understanding in my 20s, in my teens, 20s, 30s, in the services. No, you haven't. It's not till you get to a stage where you've either been rock bottom, you're in a shit state, and something needs to happen. It's like with health, isn't it? Sometimes something needs to happen before you go, fuck, I need to sort that out. And again, these are the conversations I have with people that come onto the program. Not many people come to me in good shape. I get a few who want to work on performance and they want to look at the finer detail, but most people have gone like, fuck, I need to do something here because something's happened. Health problems, they've looked at themselves in the mirror, there's been a comment, or something's just happened, and they have to have that realization that they need help, because going to the gym's not enough, and then come into an environment to be coached.
Yeah, so, we talk about rock bottom, and it's often viewed in quite a negative lens. Like, quite rightly, you've just shared the experience of that for yourself and Hasler, and certainly in my experience, which was also down at Cold Rose, maybe it's that airbase that puts people in a shit state mentally. But there's actually something quite beautiful about rock bottom, because what it is, it's the final letting go of pride, of thinking that you can square it away yourself. And Monday I'll stop drinking, or Monday I'll get back in the gym. It's actually that point at which you put your hand up and say, I can't do this alone. And I think especially for blokes, that can be quite hard. It's seen as perhaps weakness or not being masculine enough. But actually, that's the point where someone can step in and be like, well, I see what you're trying to do. Let me help you get there. Let me be the catalyst that helps you bring your vision, into reality, into being. And that rock bottom state is an invitation. And what we have to decide is, are we going to step through that to the other side, which can be anxiety inducing in itself. People always say, better the devil you know, but actually when you're drinking every night of the week, you've got fat, things are rubbish, you're having relationship issues, why not try that? Why not try a different script? Get mental health coaching, work with yourself and Warrior Wellness Movement, and just step through and, try it out. I think you've just done a money back guarantee. You'll even give them their money back if it doesn't work for them. But, if you sincerely commit to something, and you show up, you'll get results. You can't not.
Why are people scared of change? Why? For me now, fully back into fitness training in a good place, built my business, based it off my experiences. I know what it's like to be at the bottom. I had a turning point. I still don't quite know when that was or what actually happened. I think it was a conversation with a physio up in Headley Court. It probably just went, what the fuck are you doing? Something around that time made me switch. But why do people go? They know they need to change. Why do they go on Monday, New Year's, and put it off? Scared of change?
Yeah, scared of change, definitely. Scared of actually holding a mirror up to the problem. And I think the longer you leave things unchecked, the more daunting it is to address them. If you've been living your life, as someone who's arrogant or big-headed, and that you can look back over 30 years and see how many relationships that's destroyed, how many opportunities that haven't come your way because of that, whatever it is for you, whether it's your addiction, whether it's something of your personality, that just builds up. And the weight of accepting, actually, I have responsibility in part for what's happened to me. I think that reaches a point where that can be overwhelming. But it's the decision, isn't it? It's, do I continue with the old script that's destroying my life, messing up my relationships, destroying my body, leading me to an early grave? Or do I say, actually, I can't do this and I want something different? So I think it's shame and guilt are the two emotions really in there. It's what have I put myself and others through, the guilt associated with that. And, people double down, don't they? They get to that point where they're unwilling to concede the fact that their life could have been different, and it still can be.
And I think the other one for me is people look at the task ahead and go, oof, I've got a lot of work to do here. But which is where I come in and say, I'm not putting you on a fad diet. I'm not putting you on a 7-day training regime a week. I'm just going to start doing some exercise, start doing the things you enjoy, start to look at your diet. You can still have a beer, maybe in the early stages when someone is, let's say, completely out of shape, overweight. We need to really pull back on a few things, but I try and live my life how I'd expect clients to live. Still enjoy a beer, still enjoy, let's say, not such healthy food, but you can go one or two ways. People that have come into Warrior Wellness Movement have made changes that even I don't do as a coach, as a fitness professional, in terms of what they do with their diet, their regime. I'm like looking at them going, shit, maybe I need to up my game. So everyone's different at how they come in and how they respond to coaching, how you coach people, how you speak to people, how you get the best out of people. It's always different, right? But we need to be moving. We need to be doing something they're going to enjoy because they're more likely to do it. We need to drink some water, eat some vegetables, get your protein high, all the fundamentals that I think about. And where Hazel comes in as the nutritional therapist and just debunk any myths that are like the garbage that just still gets spouted across social media and that. And I'm quite blind to that because one, I don't follow those pages, but two, you're a bit more educated and wiser. And obviously I'm in the business now, but I still have conversations with new clients who ask me questions and I'm like, fuck did you read that from? But because it's crap that's still on the internet, and it's usually fast, quick fixes, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what people want. It's what's attractive, avoiding the work that gets them to where they want to be. And I think you touched on enjoyment. I think it's a really important part of it. We can often, changing a fitness regime and getting fit can often be seen as a punishment. And people can frame it in that way. Oh, I need to stop doing this. I need to stop drinking. I need to stop eating out. I need to stop being lazy.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with that, we're not tapping into our dopamine system. So, why have we been drinking? Why have we been eating out? Why have we not been working? Because that makes us feel good. It gives us dopamine. We're getting that reward. And so when we're trying to integrate healthier habits into our life, how do we make them meaningful and enjoyable to us? So working out what our values are, what kind of dad do I want to be? What kind of mum? What kind of husband? What kind of wife? And building the reward, that towards motivation. I want to be 90 kilos, lifting this in deadlift, squat, bench press, so that when I go on my family holiday, I'm looking like super dad to my young boy, something like that.
Yeah.
Make it meaningful to you. It's not self-punishment. It's the biggest act of self-love you can give yourself and to your family. If you're looking after your own mental health, your physical health, your kids are going to look up to you, your wife's going to respect you more, and you're going to have more of yourself to bring to those relationships, to actually be present and authentic with the people you love. It's the biggest gift we can give children, is actually, I see you, I love you, and you're worthwhile. I think that's just such an important aspect.
And I talk about it a lot on my socials, and I'm not trying to be duty hero, but I show my boy, I show him by just trying to be a good person, trying to be a good dad, lift weights. He sees me lifting, he sees me messing around, jumping down, doing press ups together, that sort of stuff. Although he did say to me not so long ago, I think he went to me, how many beers did you have last night? And I was like, who the fuck are you? 14. And I was like, well, did have quite a few, to be fair. But he sees what I do. So he does his CrossFit now. I put it all over my social media. I'm so fucking proud of him. Never once have I pushed him in. I mean, it's CrossFit, but I've never pushed him into it, ever. He's just watched me train. He used to watch me rowing when he was like 3 years old. And one day he just came back and went, I want to go to CrossFit. And 2 years later, he's like deadlifting 110 kilos. He's 14. He cleans 60.
Mr. Olympia coming up here.
he snatches like, I can't do what he does. Well, I can't. My shoulders won't let me get there, but I need to do some more work with Mark. But yeah, he watches me. And I've become so apparent. My little girl's 6, nearly 7. And again, she sits and listens and watches. I'm always very conscious now what I'm saying, how I'm acting, how I'm behaving. If I'm driving the car, I'm not swearing and shouting at people. They're watching. The kids are watching your behaviours. I'm really, really conscious of that now after what Max has achieved with his lifting because he watched me train over the years. Going back to what you were saying, focusing on, rather than I've got to stop doing this and stop doing that, positive reinforcement, right? I should start to do this and I should start to do that. I always say to people over and over again on the program, messages, when I'm typing it out to people, clients, control the controllables. People say to me in messages when I'm coaching them, I've had a shit week, and they list this and they list this. And I'm like, okay, cool. But what have you achieved? Then I think about it and we just list this big list of achievements. That's massive. And I've said this to clients before. I genuinely get to the end of the day and try, if I can remember, rather than focus on like, oh, I've had a shocking day. This went wrong. This went wrong. This. It's good, okay, to have a bit of banter with it. But I also just go, right, I've achieved this, and have that positive reinforcement, because I used to just beat myself up all the time. Especially when I built this business. If I hadn't like achieved like some unbelievable day with whatever I was doing, I'm not sleeping because I'm just in my head beating myself up about my failures rather than focusing on what I've achieved. Same with rowing. Go back to rowing. I started rowing 8 weeks ago, big comeback. And the first few weeks I was just going, oh, I'm so slow. It's been 10 years. Like, fucking hell, you're 44 now. But I focused on what I can do and just slowly chipped away at it. And now I'm like, all right, now we're shifting.
Yeah, and comparing yourself to yourself, who you were yesterday. Have I lost any weight this week? It's not about the other person on Instagram. It's not about the fastest rower in the world. It's you against you. It's the only competition. And it's just, every personality shift or bodily transformation that we see online is thousands of micro changes. It's just going through the motions every day, choosing to eat the healthy meal, choosing to, actually go to failure on your core lifts. It's those micro successes stacked that are leading to that big win. And I just love what you were saying about your kids as well, because people talk about masculinity in this day and age, and I don't think we really know what it is as a society. But the way I see it is it's that balance. It's the balance between grace and truth. So being compassionate, but also the boundaries as well. And that's what kids need, right? They need to be loved. They need boundaries. It's the mix of the two. Give them too much leeway and, they kind of fall off the rails. They're craving for, Dad, what do I do? Like, what are the boundaries of our relationship? They want that. Go too authoritarian, they start to fear you. It impacts that relationship. And you haven't had to tell your son, you must go to the gym, you must do this. You've been, this is what I do. And this is the fruit, pretty good looking 44-year-old, if I do say so myself.
Thank you very much.
And, he's seen that. He's like, oh, that's what I want for myself. And, that's what we need more of, is those positive male role models. Yeah. Especially lads in the military, or people who join for 3-4 years. They've had a purpose from 16 or 18. They've done their tour. They're 22, 23 now. It's, well, what's next? Who am I? I'm no longer AB such and such. What's my purpose? And actually having men who've transitioned successfully through, especially medical discharge and come out the other side, running your business. I think it's so important for other beatniks to be able to look up to you and see, how long have you been out now?
4 years officially. If you take out rehab, 6 years. Yeah.
What's the single biggest change you've noticed in yourself?
Like a therapy session now, this. Good question. That's a difficult one. Patience. Patience, understanding of situations. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Always have done. Always will do. Quite aggressive, flashing all the time. Someone says something, boom, it's based on emotion.
Yeah.
So as from a coaching point of view, it's like step back. Right. Don't act on emotion. Act on facts. Act on data. Act on whatever. Go back to the car, driving along. I used to be a right knob. Road rage, shocking. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just like, just drive around. One, the kids are watching me, and two, I've not got time to be screaming and shouting at people. That's not to say I don't lose my temper. Of course I do. But just trying to be patient with myself, with kids, with clients, with family. Just smile, relax. That's the difference, I think, when I was in the military. So obviously Royal Marines and then PTI. PTI is just command and response. Go shouting at people and you get a response. It's just everything's an instructor, isn't it? Including the title. Not much coaching. You're just instructing. Go, stop, whatever. So that's quite an aggressive environment, even though there's a lot of banter there. It's aggressive. Everything you do is aggressive. Everything's fast. Everything's furious. So just taking a step back and trying to think about what you said as well when you do our coaching calls, breathing techniques. Not done meditation yet. I've done a lot of the breathing stuff you've said and just tried to just find that mindfulness, which I used to think was airy-fairy. And now I'm like, where we sat earlier, when you came in, just sitting in the sun, having a coffee and just going, I think it's that feeling of taking a deep breath and just... you can just feel yourself sinking. I do that quite a lot. And I'm like, well, that's a nice feeling, that. It's just that.
Well, it's being, right?
Yeah.
So many times we're either forward focused, what's coming next, what's tomorrow, or regrets from the past. Like, we don't take those times to just be present in a moment. And, it's one of the only ways of raising base level happiness in the long term. You can have chocolate, you can... fry your dopamine with TikTok reels or whatever it is, but actually mindfulness is the only way of raising baseline happiness. It's the only thing that doesn't sink back down. It's such an important practice, and it's patience. It's the fruit of it. I think it's that not sparking at everything. It's taking a moment. Is this a relationship I want to sabotage? Has this person offended me? But do I want to maintain the relationship and say, you know what, mate, didn't like what you said there. This is why. Rather than, effing and blinding, burning the bridge that doesn't need to be bridged. All you really need to say is, for us to relate, this is how I want it to be done. And you can have a conversation without flashing. The fact that you've come out with that, I'd say, that if that's the reward from
I'm trying. I'm not saying I'm always there. Go back to, we had a coffee not so long ago, and we both shared a similar story where I said I'm quite good at cuffing things. I'm quite good at it's always been a thing in a core, cuff it, just be able to just on the spot do something and react. PTI, just like a quick detail. You've got to go and do this and go and do it. Think about pilot training, decisions that are important. And we said, I told you about when I worked in football and I went from Hasler to just kept turning up at Plymouth Argyle Football Club, wrote an email, got an invite, did an hour or two with them and just kept turning up every day to the point where they were going, fuck's this guy? I got a contract out of it at the end, right? So I kept turning up. And you said something similar in terms of like, you just went, I'm going to go flying. And off you went. What was the story there?
Yeah, it's cheesy, but we'll go for it.
Go on. It's cheesy to you.
It's cheesy to everyone.
No.
But I'm happy to share. So one of my really good friends, Ross, so I'm from the Lake District. It's where I grew up. And for the flying nerds, that's LFA 11, Low Flying Area 11. It's where the military fly around and high G maneuvers over the mountain passes. It's cool. Like when you're a young lad on a walk, looking up to that. I was always, every time they want to come over, I'd be there looking up. And I was watching Top Gun at about age 16 with my mate Ross. And we finished the movie. We're like, should we do that? And
this is cheesy.
yeah. And I was
should we cue the music?
Yeah, fuck it.
Go on.
We basically just wanted that level bromance, but in real life.
Yeah.
And both applied, both got the job.
Yeah.
He started Dartmouth in the...
So you joined the Navy to be a pilot?
Yeah. And, they ask you... I almost failed the interview because they said, would you be a submariner? I was like, absolutely not. What have you ordered to? No. It couldn't pay me enough money for that.
Yeah.
So it was that or nothing, essentially. I didn't want to do anything else.
Yeah. And did you have to join like everyone else does, base level, BRNC?
Yeah. So you go through officer training at BRNC, but that at the end you kind of get to leave the fishy stuff behind.
Yeah. What was your? I said my best years in the military were at BRNC. They're probably your worst years, weren't they?
I don't know if it's rose-tinted goggles, but I still go back there every now and again. My wife and I went to one of their lectures with the Britannia Association last year. I've got a lot of fond memories, a lot of fun. I was in the zoo, so 30 lads, all in one room, stinking after curry night, honestly, I'll tell you. But yeah, there were some times, there were some tears, there was some horrible bootnecks screaming at me, but there was just always a lot of underlying humour and a lot of fun. And I'm I'm very glad I've been through it, and I'd certainly recommend it.
It's a strange place for someone, for me, coming from Lympstone, Commando Training Centre, to serving as a bootneck, to go in there was very strange, but good.
Yeah. What was the biggest culture shift?
That's how fucking relaxed it was. I was like, this is the Britannia Royal Naval College. Including the title, it sounds very posh, doesn't it? It's not the Commando Training Centre.
It is quite posh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I once titled it aggressive holiday camp.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. No, I'm sure it's different now, and it's like anyone in the military will always say, "Oh, back in my day." I mean, we're going back 10 years, and even then, it was like, fucking hell, it's completely different. But it did its job. It did its job in producing leaders for the Royal Navy to send them out into the big wide world. So, do you know what? Coincidentally, 2 people currently on Warrior Wellness Movement, my clients, I took them through training
At Dartmouth.
So I fucked them up, and now I'm repairing them.
Well, it's a business model.
Yeah. But yeah, it's we used to have like bootnecks come through, so they would join. What was it called? Upper Yardsman or something?
Yeah.
And you would have like this colour sergeant or warrant officer who's done like 25 years in the Corps, and he'd be stood to attention in his officer Royal Navy kit, and he'd have his green lid on, and we would have known about it because we'd have seen it on the. And he'd be like 45 years old, and it's just embarrassing.
Being told his shoes aren't shiny enough.
Yeah. I'll be there as a Killick PTI, like, the fuck are you doing here? But they used to transfer. They got to like 25 years in the Corps. They go one way or the other. It was a great move. It was something I considered had things not gone wrong. Loads of stuff that I wanted to do. I had all intentions of doing 22, 25 years. Like, I joined quite late, 23, 24. I was a granddad when I joined, because most lads are about 18, 19.
Yeah.
But I had intentions of having a full-on career. So that was another big thing for me, to have that taken away from me, and was given the decision, do you want to stay for another medical board, or do you want to go? Well, I was offered a contract at Argyle, and I went, I'll jump. I got sacked 2 years later. Fucking horrendous. And that's it, back into more shit.
Yeah, but it's with 23 you said you joined. I was 19. How come, how much do you really know about yourself at that age, and where you want the trajectory of the life to go? Some lads join up, they do 25, 30 years, and they absolutely love it, live and breathe it. But I think it's totally normal to not know what your purpose is, what your calling is at that age, and having the opportunity to then completely rebuild, change the trajectory of your life, but bringing forward the skills, because certainly for yourself, for me, like, it's not wasted time. It's all, even the difficulty, the skills we've learned, how to cuff things, like, that's all prepared us for what we're doing now.
Yeah, and I look at my career now, I look at this wall behind me here, and like, it's all my memorabilia of like my achievements, or some of my achievements, ones that I'm proud of, and I wouldn't change anything. You can't change anything, but like, do I have regrets? No, because we can't change them, but I wanted to do extra things in the military. I wanted to maybe go Corps Commission. I wanted to be an ERI, but shit happens. We move on, and all the things that I did after that were because of something I had done. And I use all that experience now within my business and within my coaching ability, and try and draw back on that experience. Fuck me, I joined the prison service and the police service before I joined the Corps.
You just like a uniform.
I do, yeah. The only thing I didn't do is fire brigade. Maybe I'll go for that. But all these different experiences that I've got, I'm so proud of, and I try and use them in my business model about how I talk to people, how I coach people, and like, and I always say I can relate to that. Everyone's situation is different, we know that, but there's an enormous amount you can take. Look, military life for anyone. Would I recommend someone going to military? 100%. I would personally. Choose your branch carefully, or choose what you want to do, but transferable skills. Makes you grow up. Look, I went through training with lads that were 16 years old. One lad, he was 16, he got killed 2 years later in Afghan. It's tragic, but fucking 16. I mean, my boy's nearly 15, and I'm like, wow, to turn up at Lympstone at 16 years old, Commando Training Centre, and I was 23, 24. Corporals were a couple of years older than me. That's young. Yeah. That is fucking young. Did it though.
My brother did the same, 16 into Harrogate, joined the army, and did 4 years, and he's now a paramedic. And it's just, I love my brother, but he was a little shit as a kid.
Aren't they all?
And, you know, smoking weed, kind of messing around, didn't know what he wanted to do. And then the army for 4 years just straightened him out.
Yeah.
You know, he's such a lovely, like, he's a massive bodybuilder, but just such a lovely, kind-hearted bloke, you know, squaring people away on the ambulance. And it's exactly what he needed. It was that structure, identity, and discipline that just straightened him out and changed his life, I'd say. 'Cause
100%.
otherwise, it's just dossing around his hometown.
Yeah. The danger is the institutionalization of people that join at 16 and then they leave 30 years later and they don't know fuck all. That's where I would say the military have got a shortfall, a problem of how they integrate people back into society. It's like coming out of prison. It is. If you joined, even like 18, if you joined, it's still super young. If you did 30 odd years, I'd hate that.
Yeah.
I'd hate that. To have that taken away from you.
It's hard as well, isn't it? Because I totally agree that the transition out to Civvy Street is difficult. And, you know, so many homeless people are veterans, huge amounts of addiction, and they really need to do better. But there is also an element that they need to take it away for the cohesion within. You know, you don't want a military full of people like me who are just cutting their own detail and bouncing all over the place. You do need that conformity. But it's almost like, how do I re-find who I am after I've been discharged or after I've left? You know, that's a question. You know, you meet the blokes where, and I got a lot of respect for all of our veterans, but you know, some of the blokes that all they talk about is when I was in the services, you know, when I was doing this, when I was on board this ship. But it's like, who are you now? And I really think they need to do better in helping people find that out. Even if it is, everyone's offered a course of 6 weeks of therapy to, you know, identify their values. What do you want?
There you go. It's a calling card for you there. Yeah. Do you know what? When I left, went to work in football, got sacked on holiday whilst I was having dinner, phoned me up, sacked me 20 seconds. Savage, right? I was then unemployed, did a bit of freelance work, did some surveillance work, and then lockdown, no job, unemployed. Fuck. I went to work for some civvy firms doing some driving, Amazon, all that sort of stuff, because I needed money. Yeah. I was a bad way. But the biggest thing I struggled with was just like how these operations were run, because I was still quite fresh, like gone military to football, which is, okay, not similar, but at least it's like there's a setup there. There's like a bit of a brotherhood. To go into like civilian companies that I experienced, mate, I was like, this is mad. And this is where I really struggled. Like, why is that not being done like that? Why is that not being done? Who the fuck is that? And like, I just didn't understand how like civilian operations could run without any kind of like military way of thinking. And my girlfriend used to just go, just chill out. Yeah. It's all right. And this is at a time when I was going through a divorce, child custody battle. I was unemployed. Mental health was shit. I was still injured. Just lost my job. Now I've lost the support of Hasler and the rehab. That's probably the worst I was at. Worst I was at, and trying to do a job to earn some money to pay the bills in a shitty environment that just didn't know their arse from their elbow. I think that's where a lot of people, they come out of the military. I mean, I didn't do that long. If you think someone did 30 odd years and then probably goes, what the fuck? How's this working?
It's just a completely different paradigm, isn't it? And the things, like the small details that you would have been bollocked for by your corporal.
Yeah, I was like, why are people not turning up on time? Just like the most basic detail. Like, why we've got to wear safety boots? Why have you not got safety boots on? Things like that. I just couldn't get my head around it. The most basic minimum standard. Yeah. That's what I call it. It's just the required standard. Just do it.
It's just this completely different paradigm. I found like my boss, who I work for the charity, the mental health charity, when I first started working there, I was just always walking on eggshells. And you know, when you walk on eggshells, it's you who puts them down. It's not the other person. I was just waiting for him to bollock me or like say something or pick me up for my uniform, which I wasn't wearing. And it took me probably a good 3 months to be like, he's just a really nice bloke who wants the best for me. Yeah. And there's a lot of unlearning to do, isn't there? Like we internalize that experience. And I think a lot of veterans struggle with the inner critic. You know, they internalize the voice of their training staff who are like, you're shit, you're not doing good enough. Yeah. All of this. And that's how we end up speaking to ourselves over the I've not tied my shoelaces. You know, the tiniest things. We're acting like we've just, you know, destroyed our entire family or crashed our new Mercedes. And we've got to be careful for that, because, you know, that inner critic can it's the thief of joy. You know, if we're pursuing a gym goal or making steps in our finances, but we're never giving ourselves you know what, good job, then we're not getting that sense of purpose and that sense of meaning, which is so important. It's something I had to wrestle with, the inner critic. That was a big part of my therapy. And so I feel so much better that I can actually authentically enjoy and celebrate things I've done well.
Yeah. I'm my biggest self-critic or inner critic, as you call it. When during that period of stress that I told you about, which was my lowest, that I just spoke about, my girlfriend Portia had to fucking get a grip of me, because there was an incident where I was trying to get everyone out of the house on a Saturday, got the kids, everyone get your shoes on. My little girl was probably 3. My boy would have been, I don't know, 11 or 10 or something. And the military inside me was like, right, I've given everyone a 10-minute warning. As soon as that 10-minute warning's up, I'm like, right, everyone's shoes on, let's go. And then when people weren't ready, straight away, I was like, what the fuck? Like shouting at people. This is the transition that I had when you spoke about what I've learned about patience and that. And I just couldn't get round why I've just told Portia, a 3-year-old and an 11-year-old, you've got 10 minutes and we're going. And she had to pull me to one side and just go, what the fuck are you doing? And I had to just think about it, mate. And I took this step back, and it took me like a couple of days. And I was like, John, like Royal Marines, you just go. You're always ready. You've always got a grab bag. You've always got your kit squared away. You've done your admin. It's just part of who you are. You just fucking react and you just go. Doesn't matter what it is, low level, high level, whatever. And I just couldn't get my head around what I've given you 10 minutes. I gave you fucking 10-minute warning. Why have you not got your shoes on? She's like, because they're 3 and 10. And she's like, and I'm a civvy. I can't cope with this. And I was just like, right. And I just had to take this massive step back and go, I can't expect people just to be like, boom, go. And it was, mate, that was massive. That was a changer for me. I was a knob.
I don't think you were a knob. You know, you were doing what you were taught to do, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a really good sort of insight into values and projection. You know, as we go around the world, we're constantly projecting our values onto other people. And that's the cause of most relationship breakdown, whether that's friendships or romantic. It's Ollie's not behaving in the way I would behave, so Ollie's mugging me off, or Ollie's disrespecting me. But it just might be that you really value fairness and I really value being nice and cuddly. You know, just completely different ways of looking at the world. And you know, if they've not been through that high stress, your admin's not done.
That's what it was. It's high stress.
So then they're just like, just chill out a little bit.
I'm just on alert all the time. Yeah, exactly. That, mate, that's draining for everyone, not just me. It's quite funny. My boy the other day, so he spoke to his mum, which is my ex-wife. He like made a complaint against me, and I went, I'm sorry, he's done what? He made like a formal complaint to his mum about how dad's speaking to me. And again, I did have to take a step back because I said something to him and I'm trying to get him on the right path. He's 14, nearly 15. You know, he's with his mates at school. He's got a girlfriend. He's all this sort of stuff. And a few little minor details came up. And again, Portia, my missus, who's got no kids, has to get a grip of me and go, it's fine. He's not fucking carrying guns into school and shooting everyone. He's fucking he was a little bit late to lesson because he was seeing his missus. And I just have to go, yeah, I've been there. And I just had these really good chats with him and I was talking to him about something. I think I was talking to him about, I keep getting like emails from the school because you've got a behaviour point because your shirt wasn't tucked in. And I said to him, mate, just tuck your shirt in. Like, you know, in the Marines, we make sure we tuck a shirt in. And he just went to me, he like literally just went, we're not in the Marines. And I was like, no, you're right. Okay, yeah, fucking hell.
It's completely fair enough, isn't it?
But I'm learning. This is the thing, right? So how long have I been out? I just told you, I think 6 years or something. I don't know. 2019, I was discharged. But yeah, I've got all my memorabilia up here to remind me. But look at my logo. It's got a great big green lid on it. But I was never like core pissed. I mean, I only did 7 years and I transferred. It wasn't a long time, but I still take those values. And I still think about what I learned. These pictures you've got beside you, these awards, it's stuff that I'm proud of, that I've ingrained into my life that I want to sustain and keep pushing forward in how I operate and how I live my life. Operate, using words like that. But yeah.
It's molded you, right? It's, you know, your formative years.
100%.
It's such, you know, I've got such respect to to people who go through Limpston. You know, they sometimes ask us at Dartmouth, you know, do you want to get your green lid? I was absolutely fucking
Yeah.
Sounds absolutely wank.
Yeah. No way.
It's brutal, you know, and it really is for people who don't know. It's a grim training.
It is. And the thing is, mate, when you do it, you're really proud to get it. I've got my picture there, get my green lid and everything, but it's not till you leave and then you suddenly look back and go, fucking hell. Yeah, that was pretty special, that. I don't know, I celebrate my achievements more on probably on a day-to-day basis, getting memorabilia all around me, than actually the day I got handed my green lid at the end of the 30 miler. It's just like, yeah, cool, on we go. What's next?
Well, it's the distance, right? You can actually see back into it. Whereas when you received your green lid, that's what you were in. That was just normal.
Yeah.
Whereas you compare that to...
Well, the thing is, it was the minimum standard. You've got to do this to get your green beret. It's just the minimum standard. Yeah. That's what you've done. All you've done. But it is, isn't it? Do that and you get a green lid. All right.
Whereas you go down to Exeter High Street, and it's maybe 1 in 1,000 people would be capable of doing it. You know, it's really small percentage of the population that could go and do those commando tests.
But it's not, do you know what? It's not people talk about this and people ask me about this. It's not the physical aspect. I don't think it is. It's the longevity of training. 8 months plus your leave periods. I think it's been extended by a couple of weeks now because they have like a recruit orientation phase. Best part of a year of training. I got injured in training, so I was in Hunter Company, so that added on another 3 months. It's a long time. It is a fucking long time. So the longevity of training and the relentless nature of, like you mentioned a minute ago, constantly getting beaten down, how you're spoken to, sleep deprivation. You call it the phys is hard. Physical training is hard, but it's not, you know, it's just carrying lots of weight for distances, and the commando tests are cheeky, but they're not. Athletes, I'm sure, probably go down to Limpston, get a bit of training and do the commando test and go, what are you worried about? Yeah, you haven't done fucking 8 months training beforehand where you're absolutely exhausted.
And that's the thing, you can't take a day off and say, you know what, actually, if I run today, I'm going to get stress fracture.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. It's the recovery, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that relentless nature. And the biggest thing for me, and I'll never forget this, I could take all the physical thrashings, all the beastings, the crawling round, all that. But when they start fucking around with your own time, because you're like, oh, it's the weekend, going to go and see the missus, going to go home. And they're like, right, fucking hell, Friday night, kit muster, 10 o'clock at night. And you're like, that's what beats you down, shit like that. Or they throw all your kit out the window in the middle of the night, get you to go and roll around in the mud. And then they're like, right, kit inspection 6 a.m. I mean, sure, you can't do that anymore. This is 2005. But it's stuff like that that beats you down all the time. And then the physical training suddenly becomes a lot harder.
And that's where you find out who you're made of, isn't it? You know, when you're being beaten down in that way, the mask falls away. You know, if you're going to flash, you're going to flash. You're going to cry, you're going to cry. And that's what it's designed for.
Yeah, and that's when people leave.
Yeah. It's can you face yourself is the question. You know, can you hold it together when you're angry? Can you hold it together when you just want to punch the drill sergeant in the face? You know, do you have that composure to not be led by your emotions? And that, you know, that's essentially what your training program is, isn't it? The emotion says, be lazy, don't go to the gym, eat shit food. And, you know, it's actually what I want, what my values are. I want this. I want to look good. I want to be successful.
Yeah. So on that note, the last one for you. What is success for you? Where are you trying to get to? How are you getting there?
Yeah, good question. So my mission is to improve the mental health of 1 million people. And I can't do that one-to-one. So, you know, I just don't have enough time to sit down with 1 million people. So I really want to, my heart's really for young men, sort of 16 to 30-year-old men. Really feel like they're suffering in this modern world. You know, masculinity's under attack. People don't know who to look up to. And, you know, the message I really want to put out to them is that you're okay. And, you know, it can take some time to find your purpose, but do invest that time in really finding out, you know, what you've been put on this earth for, what your passion is, and then, you know, just that encouragement to walk towards that in a balanced, healthy, and sustainable way. You know, it's not, I mean, some people can do it gung-ho, single focus, get that done, but I can't do that, you know, and I think most people can't do that. They need to be seeing their friends. They need to be having good sleep, looking after their well-being. And it's just that one foot in front of the other. As long as you're on the right path, you're going in the right direction. So yeah, I'm building my YouTube channel at the moment, putting together a website. So Really looking towards the sort of online content space, maybe some courses, my own podcast, long form videos, like going into topics like managing your stress and what is meaning, identifying your purpose, all that kind of stuff. A message of hope, really. There's a lot of darkness.
You're a good man. You bring a lot of positive energy, and I'm delighted when you come and speak on my lot, Warrior Wellness Movement, and the individual work you do with them. And I could sit and listen to you all day. I could, but until the next time, we'll chat again, mate.
Good to see you, mate.